Hi, everybody. Welcome to the official Colts podcast here on a Thursday on the Colts Audio Network and on YouTube. Casey Vallier, the legendary Bill Brooks. I'm Matt Taylor. We're getting you set and ready to go for Colts and Jets, week number 11, the first of two trips for the Colts to the Big Apple this week, or I should say this year. The Jets first, the Giants in late December. I think that's a week 17 game.
Yep.
That might as well be 200 years from now. There's a lot of things are going on here in Colts land. First of all, Bill, how are you this week? You doing all right?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Good. Doing well.
Good,
Casey,
good.
you all right?
Doing great.
Fantastic.
Good.
All right, we know Anthony Richardson obviously is feeling much better about things. We're going to talk about that as the Colts are making the switch back to Anthony Richardson at quarterback. We're going to talk about the Week 11 matchup here. I'm calling this the breaking point bowl between the 4-6 Colts and the 3-7 New York Jets. Both teams are desperate for a win. Adonai Mitchell is going to join us here on the podcast today. He's fresh off his best game as a rookie, 6 catches, over 70 yards. So he's going to join us here on the podcast later on. And then we're going to wrap up with what I'm calling the playoff hope meter. You guys ready for that? I'm going to put you on the spot. We're going to see how hot the playoff meter is for the Colts.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
All set, ready to go. So that's what we're laying out with here as we get ready for this podcast number 2 this week here on the OCP. We got to lead off with Anthony Richardson, though. Bill, earlier this week, we got some clarity from Shane Steichen when it comes to the process. That's all we heard was the process. Anthony has to stick to the process and go through the process and learn to develop within the process. Obviously, the Colts, with that being intentionally vague, and Jim Bob Cooter said we're being vague in the media, not so vague with Anthony Richardson, which you can understand. But this week from Shane Steichen, when they revealed the news that they're going back to Anthony Richardson, revealed some things more about what the process actually is and what that means. What did you take away from the process and how it works and what they're trying to get more out of when it comes to Anthony Richardson?
I think what they're trying to do is, for him to help him develop as a professional football player, as a quarterback, as a leader on the team. And part of that is your preparation for each week, how you prepare for each week going into that week. It's the game plan, it's looking at film, it's weightlifting, all those things. What are you doing? How are you absorbing the information that you're getting from the coaches? Do you have a good command of the game plan? Do you have a good understanding of what defenses are trying to do to you this week? So I think those are the things that they want to see Anthony grow in as far as a player, a young player. And I think, sometimes it takes a little bit longer for other players. So I think that's something that they said they've seen and that he has grown these past 2 weeks when he wasn't playing. So hopefully he has grown, and so hopefully he has taken it upon himself to say, hey, look, I have to be ready, I have to be prepared, because that's the position of the quarterback in the National Football League. You have to go above and beyond what maybe the coaches are asking you to do as far as, all right, this is the time we have meetings for our game plan.
Right.
You have to watch extra film.
Yeah.
You have to go out there and make sure that you have a good understanding of the game plan. You have a good understanding of the opponent you're playing, and that takes time. It might take extra time outside of the actual team meetings and individual meetings that you have.
Right.
You have to do it, so you have to be ready to go.
And Casey, the coaching staff, the front office just didn't feel like Anthony was doing enough. I don't know if that's the right term or not, but there was something missing, which is why they made that decision 2 weeks ago. But to Anthony's credit, the last 2 weeks have been really good in that regard when all of this is sort of rooted in what's happening behind the scenes. Yesterday, when we heard from Shane Steichen and we heard from Anthony Richardson, the two words that stuck out to me, and I'm curious as to what your take is on it, but the two words that stuck out to me were consistency and sacrifice. Yep. You want to see way more consistency from your quarterback in everything that he does. Consistency on the field, off the field, preparation, leadership in the locker room, and sacrificing time and sacrificing whatever it takes to be the CEO of an NFL franchise, which we know NFL quarterbacks are.
No, I'm glad you brought those two words up because those are kind of the two that I took as well. And one of the things that I was pretty impressed at the way Anthony spoke about everything. He talked about, I've started to understand what it means this position and what it means. I'm willing to sacrifice whatever it means for the betterment of the team. I've got to make sure that I'm more consistent on and off the field, because it's not only going to help me as a better quarterback, but as a better person. So it's all coming together, if you will, on what it takes to be a quarterback. This is not at all a stab at saying he wasn't doing any of this. It's just sometimes you have to, in some ways, be told a little bit more like, hey,
this is the standard.
This is the standard.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to hold your end of the bargain, because you can talk about it ad nauseum. It is the hardest position in all of sports, playing quarterback. And you have to be able to, you look at an opponent and you say, okay, I'm gonna go even harder than that quarterback. That's how you become elite. I mean, you saw a guy like Peyton Manning wear this uniform, and by all accounts, that was the guy who kind of set that standard. Yeah. So it may be big shoes to fill, but in order to be at that level playing this position, you have to be able to elevate your game. And I think part of that, too, is having a guy like Joe Flacco in the building who has sustained an NFL career of 17 years. He has figured out how to do all of that. So I'm sure he was able to take what Joe did as a backup, as a starter, and see, okay, this is how he does this is how he does. I need to find my methods to do all of that preparation, because it all matters.
The lifestyle of an NFL quarterback, a franchise quarterback, is so demanding.
Oh, yeah.
Even in the offseason, because everything that you do is so highly scrutinized. And we know this is a 365 job. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And it's a really hard thing, I think, to understand. No excuses, because the standard is the standard. And you have to be a very special person to be able to shoulder all of that responsibility. But the fact of the matter is, Bill, the guy's 22 years old, and he's barely 22 years old.
Yes.
Okay? Do you think, I'm objectively asking you, I'm not being funny right now, but do you think as a 22-year-old, you would have been able to, A, handle that, and B, understand all of that?
No,
Yeah.
not at 22. I don't think I would have been to understand all of it. Yes, some of it, maybe. All of it, no. It's you are the face of the franchise. When you're drafted that high, coming in, they want you to be the face of the franchise. They want you to lead the team. They want you to go out there and show your teammates what it takes to be a leader, what it takes for this team to get to the level that they want to get to.
Right.
And it's very difficult. And for a 22-year-old to have all that pressure on him, that's saying a lot. And then he comes in, he needs to learn how to prepare, how to understand what it takes to be a National Football League quarterback. And it's hard for someone that never been a National Football League quarterback, that hasn't played a lot of games, period. Not just in the National Football League, but in college.
Yeah, 23 games past high school.
Yes.
Yeah.
So hasn't played a lot. So it's a lot. And I know I would not have been able to do that at the age of 22.
Yeah. But you did. You played with a lot of quarterbacks with the Colts. You played in Buffalo with Jim Kelly. So let's stick with Jim Kelly because he's the franchise quarterback example in this case for you. Can you illustrate what all Jim Kelly had to deal with in terms of preparation? Because you guys both know, to be a franchise quarterback in the NFL, every single thing that you do is so highly scrutinized. It's what time you get in. It's who you talk to. It's how you talk to them. It's where you sit in the lunch line. Everybody looks to you for everything to set the example. So how did Jim Kelly do it, Bill? And how much did it matter, you guys paying attention to what your quarterback was doing? How much did the off-the-field stuff matter to kind of set the tone for the rest of the locker room, if that makes sense?
It mattered because when I got there in '93, and they had just, of course, come off of losing a Super Bowl, but they were there and they welcomed me in. And Jim was one of the first guys to welcome me in and, say, hey, look, this is how we do things here. We're going to invite, you come to all the things that we have here. If it's, we go out to dinner, go out to eat, we go play different games. He always included everybody, not just the offense, but just the defense as well, because he wanted to make sure that we were all together. And then during the week, he's in there studying the game plan, making sure he has an understanding of the game plan. He probably got it first before any of us got it, because I got it on Wednesday. I thought he got it probably Tuesday, or if not Tuesday, early Wednesday morning. So he had a better understanding of it. And then during the week, we each individually will watch film on our own to get a better understanding of who we're playing. And so he would do it on his own. But on Friday, we would all come together, the receivers, the tight ends, the running backs, and Jim. And we would go upstairs. Jim would order some pizza for us. We'll have some pizza up there and Gatorade. And we would go through all the film that we watched during the week of practice on Friday just to go over it to make sure we all understand where we need to be, what we need to do. He said, look, if I get this look here from this defense, this is what I'm checking to. So you had an understanding of that, but he was in command of that meeting. So he was telling us what to do. So he did those things to help us, but it also helped the organization, and helped the team. So those are the things that I think, a leader should do, a leader can do to help the offense, help the organization out, to make sure that, you have an understanding of what's expected of you out there in the football field and in the meeting room. And then hopefully if you do those things, it's going to help the team win.
But within that, all I hear is attention to detail. Attention to detail. Yeah. And that's what Shane Steichen alluded to on Wednesday. I think those are the things, right? We can infer some things, right? Because you're never going to get the full story, nor should we from Shane Steichen, because closed doors is meant for the team. That's sacred. But I think attention to detail, stuff just like that, from what Bill said, I think that's what the Colts are alluding to.
Absolutely. I mean, I love the word you used, the CEO, because that's what you are. If you want to put it into a business term, I mean, Bill even alludes to it, what Jim Kelly did on Fridays. He's standing up there in front of the whole team. He is essentially another coach. And that's kind of some of the ways that the team will look at the quarterback is, you're an extension of Shane Steichen and Jim Bob Cooter. You're kind of our guy on the field in the trenches with us, helping us get through everything. So like Jonathan Taylor said today when he spoke, he said there are things the running backs do that, other people don't see. He goes, but then you look at what a quarterback does, and there is so much that I can't even begin to comprehend what is on their plate. Yeah. And it's just, it's the nature of the beast. I mean, that's kind of what it is, being the quarterback. So I don't think at all this is a stab at what Anthony didn't do up to this point. I think ultimately it is just kind of helping him along in, hey, you're doing this, but you also have to make sure we include all of this. And it is a hard thing. And at 22, there's going to be bumps in the road, because I remember where I was at 22. If you would have given me the keys to being a quarterback here, I would have maybe lasted about an hour and a half. So it's one of those things where it's going to take time, and you're going to have these adverse moments that he's kind of going with right now to see where he comes out on the other side. So I think this is only a growing moment that's just going to help him in the long term.
Yeah, well, that's assuming you could throw the ball. Right. I don't. I've seen you throw the ball. I mean, yeah.
If you need a 10-yard pass, I got it. Anything else?
He's your RPO guy right here. This is your RPO guy. This is your option quarterback.
Or the wing T.
I could probably hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor with the best of them. That's about it.
How much do you think this benching, how much do you think it opened the eyes of Anthony Richardson? Now that he's taken a step back and he's had these last 2 weeks to process and actually go through the process that the Colts want him to be better at going through, how much of a better perspective do you think he has on things now?
I think he does have a better perspective of what it takes to be a National Football League quarterback at that age of 22. And so I think by him taking a step back, being benched, and seeing what it takes as far as, maybe coming in early, maybe looking at extra film, maybe doing something extra in the weight room, or making sure that you have a good grasp of the game plan, those things. I think he has a better understanding of it. And sometimes that happens. Everyone learns differently. Everyone grasps things differently. Some grasp it early. Some takes a little bit longer. But I think this situation where he got benched, where he had to take a step back, I think it has helped him. I think he understands now the gravity of, in regards to the importance of the quarterback position in the National Football League.
Casey, how do you think this is going to, it's a loaded question, right? We're going to find out on Sunday. That's going to be the first step in the future in the right direction of things, of course. But how do you think this is going to translate onto the field for Anthony Richardson?
I think it's going to be a good thing, because one of the things we've heard from Anthony since he came here was how much he loves football. And essentially 2 weeks ago, they took it away from him. If you want to look at it just, black and white, you're no longer the guy.
Anthony's been the guy no matter what.
Right.
Elementary school, high school, grade school, college. And he's not invincible up here.
Exactly. So I think that right there, and not necessarily that he didn't think it would be taken away from him, but when you have just that little bit of doubt, if you will, it's going to push you. Like we've all been athletes, and not to the scale that me and you, not to the scale that Bill was, but ultimately you're always trying to get better. You're always working to find, and that's ultimately where this has done for Anthony. It has shown you that, hey, there are consequences. We can't overlook the numbers. When you complete 44% of your passes, there is better play out there to be had. So you start seeing that there are consequences for what you do. You have to grow in all the aspects, all the areas. I think that little bit of showing him this can't be taken away from you in a minute. In the NFL, there's a reason that guys don't necessarily get multiple opportunities. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things that I think now it's going to register with, okay, if I really want this is what I want to do. I got to put forth the effort. I got to put all that in to become a franchise quarterback, which is the hardest position to do. So I think it's going to be a really good thing for Anthony.
Yeah, I'm interested, Bill, to see how this changes decision-making, overall accuracy, computing the game. How much has the new process, if you will, for Anthony Richardson, how is that going to help him understand the game better, prepare better for games, and hopefully at the end of the day, execute better on the game film, or on the game field, I should say. And to Casey's point, yeah, you're just not going to win many football games when your quarterback's completing 44% and has a passer rating of 57. Yeah. But it's not just Anthony Richardson. It's the entire coaching staff needed to step back too in these last 2 weeks to think about how do we better put Anthony Richardson in better spots, accentuate his strengths. So within that, Bill and Casey, I'm really curious to see if the Colts just go back to, not exclusively, right? Because you still have to win from the pocket, right? You still have to make throws. But are we going to see more of the NCAA game out of Anthony Richardson, right? RPOs, pushing the ball down the field, and quite frankly, more running of the football from the quarterback?
I think you will. I think you'll see the things that he does well. I think the coaches will want to take what Anthony does well and go out there and show people how good of an athlete he really is. Yeah. And yes, we know Anthony can run the ball. He can throw the ball. He has a great arm. Everyone knows that. But sometimes, you have to put him in positions to make those plays, make those big plays down the field. And I just want to see basically better decision making. Yeah. That's what I want to see. Now, will his completion percentage go up? Hopefully. I think everyone's hoping that, but we don't know. But at first, I just want to see better decision making. And then once you have better decision making, everything else should take care of itself as you move forward. So those are the things that I would like to see out there in the football field. Of course, I would love to see the completion percentage go up, but it's better decision making.
Yeah, lastly, everybody else has got to step up.
Yes.
Everybody else has to step up. You need, obviously, more consistent play from everybody on offense. Doesn't matter what quarterback is in there. This is an offense right now that's had 5 straight games with 20 points or fewer. Okay, right. That's just not the standard. Right. Going back to what we were talking about with Shane Steichen. Lastly, on Anthony Richardson, then we'll move on, of course. But it's such big news. How do you think the rest of the locker room, Casey, has identified with this change and reacted to it?
Yeah, I think this is it's been an interesting week inside the locker room because I wasn't sure what to expect, because you make a decision like this after what you did 2 weeks ago, and you have this roller coaster ride, especially from a player's perspective. But the players have really taken it in stride. I feel like the guys haven't missed a beat. Now, what they say when we're not in there, it's always different. But I do feel like this team really never lost faith in Anthony. You heard early on when the news came out that your leaders, your guys like Zaire Franklin and Michael Pittman and Kenny Moore and DeForest Buckner, all they had to say was, we still got your back. We know he's going to be the guy. It's just
they understand he's the franchise quarterback.
They get it.
Yeah, right.
So right. They're going to do everything they can to make him a success.
100%. So that's kind of what I've seen. I've seen the guys in the locker room just kind of saying, yeah, we knew at some point this was the path we were going to go back to. So the team is not really, they're not missing a beat. They're just ready to kind of pick him up. And ultimately, that might be what it boiled down to. If we don't know all the ramifications or all that went into it, but it may have been the leaders and everybody in here just saying, hey, Anthony, this is what we need to see out of you these next 2 weeks. And then 2 week kind of checkup from Shane and the coaching staff. And the guy said, He's back. We've got him. This is where he needs to be. We're ready to roll.
He's bought in.
Yeah, I mean, that might be all it is.
Right.
And ultimately, I've seen a really positive influence out of that locker room.
And now he just needs to continue to grow.
Yes.
Just pick up from this. Hey, now you made it to this step. Okay, now you need to get to the next step. This is some of the things you need to do for the next step as far as to be that type of player, that type of quarterback, the type of leader that you can be in this league, and we want you to be in this league. So it's going to be a process. I'm saying process. So
it is, though.
yeah, but it's going to be a process for development.
But now we have more clarity on what that is.
Right, for development. So he's going to have to continue to do this, and this is a thing that doesn't happen just for 1 year or 2 years. This happens throughout his career.
Sure.
He's going to have to do this whole career if he wants to be the quarterback that he can be in his National Football League.
How much of a better wide receiver were you in year 5 compared to year 2?
Oh, a lot better. I knew a lot more.
Yeah.
I understood a lot more, and a lot of that is because of, one, just studying and being around guys, asking questions, being around the coaches, asking questions to the coaches, and just looking at film, looking where I made mistakes, looking where I can get better, talking to my coaches about where I can get better, and the guy is helping me. So he will be better if he continues this work ethic, so to speak, as far as making sure that, I'm learning, I'm getting better at certain things. He will be better as time goes on.
Yep, learning from failure, man.
That's
such a big part of life. No question.
You don't like it, but it helps you learn fast.
I love tapping into your former career and all of your experiences, Bill. I appreciate you going down that road and sharing some of those stories in Buffalo. All right, let's talk about the playoff hope meter here as we transition from Anthony Richardson. I mean, the reality of the situation here, despite all this quarterback stuff, the Colts enter Week 11 just a game out of the last playoff spot in the AFC behind the Broncos. The Colts have never made the playoffs when starting a season 4-6 or worse. So they're trying to buck that trend, but 3 teams made the playoffs last year when starting 4-6 or worse. The Green Bay did it, Tampa Bay did it, and the Rams did it. So we're going to bust out what I'm calling here the playoff hope meter. I'm going to give you guys some specific areas of this team, and then you tell me how viable it is for that area to kind of turn things around and have the Colts make a playoff push here. I'm going to start first with just quite simply the schedule, because the Colts have the easiest remaining strength of schedule in the entire conference and the second easiest strength of schedule in the entire NFL. The Colts are only going to play one team the rest of the way with a winning record. That's going to be the Lions coming up next week. Outside of that, you got a lot of bottom feeders. The Colts are 3-1 against teams currently 500 or worse, and they're 1-5 against teams who are over 500 right now. So the schedule's lining up, Bill. If the Colts can get more consistency, overall better play, they can take advantage of this schedule. Tell me the playoff hope meter for the Colts schedule. Is it a long shot? Is it playoff contending, or are playoffs guaranteed?
I'm not going to say guaranteed, but I'm going to say playoff contending. I think they can, because I think there are some winnable games that the Colts can win coming up. And if they can win these games and win certain games, they can put them in position to hopefully get a wild card spot. So I think it's contending, but they're going to have to play better. By far. I mean, we've talked about that. Some of the things that have gone on, especially offensively, not moving the ball, not sustaining drives, all those things have been problems for the Colts, but they have to play better. If they can do those things, they have an opportunity to get into contention of the playoffs if they win some of these games, as you said. The second easiest schedule?
Second easiest schedule, in the
AFC.
AFC,
yep.
absolutely.
Easiest
schedule in the AFC, second easiest in the
league.
NFL. I beg your pardon. Nope. Casey, where are you at? Long shot, playoff contender, or are you just going to book those playoff tickets right now?
I'm booking them now.
All right.
I think because of, you look at the schedule and the teams on that schedule, it includes the Jets, they're right there, borderline team, looking to try to get a wild card spot. You got the Broncos, who's currently ahead of the Colts. You've got a victory over the Dolphins. You got the Patriots in that. So all of these teams that are
Jacksonville, Tennessee,
Giants.
I mean, all of these teams that are, it makes it an easy schedule, but they're all in the AFC.
And guess what? They're looking at the Colts too. Here we go.
Absolutely.
Right. That's the reality. At 4-6 Colts, we should be able to get this win.
But you look at this schedule, and so much when you look at where a team going to make the playoffs, conference record is so key.
It's everything, yeah.
And this schedule, if I want to book the tickets now, you take care of the schedule, you're going to get in with ease because you're going to knock off these other teams. You're going to have that tie break, and you're going to be in. That's what I'm saying. Boom, baby.
Wow. Wow.
Casey.
Hey. What? Hope you don't have January plans because Casey's going to the playoffs.
We're going to the playoffs.
Listen, I'm with you. Listen, I'm here for it. No question about it. The Colts definitely have to take advantage of it. Their margin of error is so slim
small.
right now.
Yeah.
It is time to get on a roll. So let's talk about Anthony Richardson back within the context of this offense. Like we said, the offense has just 2 touchdowns and 6 turnovers in the last 2 weeks. As we said, last week marked the 5th straight game for the Colts not scoring over 20 points. Anthony Richardson back in now on the season, 44%, 57 passer rating. Both numbers, Bill, are league low. So the Colts offense, as it relates to the playoff hope meter, long shot, they get it figured out. Playoff contending, they got a shot, or playoff guaranteed, which means Richardson is really going to elevate his game.
I'm going to say, I don't know about guarantee, but I'm going to say playoff contention.
Again.
Yeah, again. Because cause,
I'm with you.
Yeah, no, because I just think, I think they would improve. I think the offense is going to improve. They're going to need to improve. They can't turn the ball over at the same rate they have been the past couple of weeks and expect to win football games. You have to, as mentioned earlier, we've said it all the time, they have to sustain some drives. They have to be able to sustain some drives. And then when they get into the red zone, score some points. Yeah, you can't get in. You have to get into the red zone. Then once you get there, score some points. So I think they can do it, but they're going to have to turn around and they're going to have to start it this week against the Jets, which I think they can do it because the Jets aren't one of those teams that are really lighting up things from a defensive standpoint. They're pretty good in some aspects, but for the most part, I think the Colts can go down and score some points and hopefully get a win against the Jets.
All right, Case, where are you at with the Colts offense?
I'm with contending on this one with Bill, but my biggest thing is with Anthony Richardson, I'm anticipating that run game being so key to this team. We kind of touched on it earlier. You go a little bit more of that NCAA style with Richardson, getting him and Jonathan Taylor going. I think that's only going to be – and you start with this weekend, the Jets are a team that struggles against the run. So I think you kind of put them behind the 8 ball early, and that's how you're going to get a victory this weekend. You kind of roll that all the way through, and this run game with Taylor and Richardson, I put that up against the majority of the teams you're going to play. So that's why I'm going definitely offense is going to get better.
That should certainly help things. Just the dynamic and the presence of Anthony Richardson in that same backfield again with Jonathan Taylor.
And hopefully in the red zone as well.
Yes.
Having them back there. I think that's going to be big for the Colts. Give them another option out there that the defense has to make sure that they're aware of, that Anthony is out there, that it helps the Colts offense.
All right, last playoff hope meter. Here we go. Let's talk about the Colts defense turning some things around here in the final 7 games of the season, as the defense is getting takeaways at a much higher clip here lately. They've got 5 takeaways in the last 2 games. They've stolen the ball at least twice in 5 of the last 7, and the takeaway total on the year now ranks 6th in the NFL. They're number 1 in fumble recoveries, but they're still not getting off the field consistently, like you talked about, Bill. The third down rate for the Colts ranks 27th on defense. And nerdy stat, their 3-and-out rate, their 3-and-out percentage, which is the percentage of time the Colts defense is forcing the opposing offense off the field in 3-and-out drives, 14%. Very, very low. That ranks 31st, or in other words, second to last. So time of possession, really, really big. The time of possession for the Colts this year, they're on the field defensively, on the field averaging 34 minutes per game of defensive time on the field. That is really, really high, and you can't ask your defense to be on the field that long without wearing down. So, Casey, I'm beginning with you first. The playoff hope meter for the defense, long shot, playoff contender, or playoff guaranteed?
I want to go guaranteed. I really do. But I'm going to go contender, and I think it's all encompassing on what Anthony Richardson and this Jonathan Taylor run offense, kind of getting back to that. You talk about time of possession. I think we'd all agree that the Colts defense has really done a really good job the last handful of weeks.
Yeah.
But late in games, when you talk about those being on the field for the 32nd, 33rd, 34th minute, you're starting to see that kind of get that wear on them. So I think time of possession is so key with this team, because if you can get the offense sustaining drives and the defense getting off the field. I trust this defense. You know, if they're on the field for 28 minutes, I think that's 28 really good minutes of football. So I'm going to go contender, borderline guarantee.
You know where the guarantee came from, right? It's Billy the Kid from the Green Mile.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're right.
Really?
Yeah, the whatever you want to call it, the cell, not a cellmate. What am I trying to think of? The guard, the officer,
Yes.
on duty. You know, they come in. Billy Kid says, "You can walk in on your feet, but you're gonna leave on your back." Old Billy the Kid will guarantee you that, right? He'll guarantee you that.
It's like a 7.5 hour movie.
Yeah,
It is.
no, he
It's a great
remembers that.
movie.
He
Great
remembers
movie.
that.
Oh yeah, where are you at in the defense, Bill?
I'm gonna say playoff contender. I'm gonna agree with Casey there, and I think you know what they've been getting some turnovers. They create some turnovers. The defense has, and they need to continue to do that. But I don't know if you can do that every game.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be important for them to, as Casey said, get off the field.
Right.
On third down, make some stops on third down. Get the ball back to the offense, get off the field. And that way, not only gives the ball back to the offense, but it gives you some rest from a defensive standpoint. So you can hopefully, in the fourth quarter, be a little fresher than you have been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
We just make some plays and get them off the field. So a lot's going to depend on not just getting turnovers, but getting off the field from a defensive standpoint. So I'm going to say playoff contender.
Playoff contender. I like where your meter is, right down the middle.
I'm right down
You
the
know,
middle.
That's a nice little comfortable 70 degrees inside the Bill Brooks house right there. Not too hot,
69,
not too warm.
69,
Yeah.
69, 69.
Sorry.
All right, 69.
Sorry, I'm a little sweaty. Turn it down a little bit, hon. Yeah, it's supposed to heat up a little bit.
Yes.
I like it. Bill Brooks, Casey Vallier, that's the playoff meter. I like it right there. I'm Matt Taylor. I'm telling you, somebody who's going to be making plays on Sunday, guaranteed. That's going to be Adonai Mitchell. He was a good sport with us earlier today on the Official Colts podcast. Check it out right now, our conversation with the Colts rookie wide receiver. All right, joined now by a rookie wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts, A.D. Mitchell, fresh off his best game in a Colts uniform. 6 catches, over 70 yards. A.D., my man, first off, congratulations on that big game. What are some things that went into your big production?
Just regular routine every day, making sure I get the right amount of balls caught, film, watch, things like that. And, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call it a big game. It's pretty much just a regular day in the office for real, just different type of opportunities.
No question about that. Now,
So,
along with that, you played a season high in snaps. I think you played 94% of the snaps. How much did the snap count and getting in the feel of the game, how much did that help just the comfort level that you had last Sunday?
for sure. I mean, it definitely helps a lot, you know, just to kind of get the feel of the game, feel of the flow of the game. And, you know, it's a lot better than coming in one play and coming out the next play. So, you know, I can kind of, you know, use different plays where I know I'm not getting the ball.
Right.
Probably run blocking versus man on corner. All I got to do is run off. So at that point, I'm just working on the release, trying to set up different moves and different routes. So it definitely helps when the receiver can, you know, kind of feel the game out.
Sure, no question about it. Has that been the hardest part about your rookie season in terms of getting the overall feel for the speed and the intensity of this game? Because prior to last week, you weren't playing, you know, close to 100% of the snaps. Now that you were, and now that you did, what was the biggest difference in that?
Just really just getting a feel for the DB, how they play.
Right.
You know, just picking up on tendencies, you know, picking up on kind of when they're going to a certain coverage, when they're trying to disguise a look, things like that. It's a lot easier than kind of looking from the sideline on, because, you know, anybody could say what they would do in a situation until they actually put in the fire. So, yeah, it just helped a whole lot more.
You know, Michael Pittman Jr. might be coming back this week. We'll see, right? And dealing with that nagging back injury. But what has he meant to your overall growth and acclimation to the NFL?
Pitt's just been a great vet. Like, I remember, I think in training camp, I talked about him in the interview, and I kind of gassed him up a little bit. I thought he was like a 6-year vet.
He's close. He's close.
But like just the way he carries himself, like you'd think that he'd been in the league a very, very long time.
Right.
And that's just credit to him. You know, he's just the whole time I've been here, he just took me under his wings, showed me the ropes, and you know, he's been very important in my process.
You know, along with that, your position coach and Reggie Wayne.
Facts.
You know, how much is he helping you study the game, right? Sometimes guys need to learn how to watch film. What are some things you need to look at when you watch film and the subtle nuances of getting ready for a game? How much has he helped in that regard?
I mean, a lot. You know, everybody likes to think that they got it figured out. He's definitely helped me. Well, really all the receivers as far as just, you know, not just watching one guy when you're looking at film, but kind of looking for signals, picking up on tendencies. You know, how do they play stacks? How do they play bunches? How do they play versus zone? How do they play versus zone match? And just a lot of different things that defenses do. You know, you can pick up on it instead of, you know, your first time seeing it on Sunday.
No question. I mean, everything you just said right there just blows, I think, the average fan's mind. Because, I mean, a lot of people just think, hey, you play a receiver, here's the route you run in this play, and you go out and run it. Man, you've got a lot to compartmentalize and compute in a short amount of time based on what you just said, right?
So, yeah, quarterbacks got it way harder than us.
Well,
way harder.
But you have to take a lot of things into consideration, too, within that. It's just been such a fun season to watch you grow and develop. Earlier in the season, you said, hey, I've been putting too much hot sauce on some of these routes. What kind of condiments are you putting on them now, based on how things have slowed down a little bit for you?
You know, sometimes it just depends on the route.
Right.
You know, just going from double moves to regular outs, you know what I'm saying? That just allows me to just be regular, just be a normal guy, just be myself.
Right.
You know, I mean, the double move's fine, but, you know, not all the time.
All right, the switch at quarterback now, going from Joe Flacco back to Anthony Richardson. As a wide receiver, how does a quarterback change, and so many of them in such a short amount of time? How does that most impact you?
I mean, to be honest, it does, but, I mean, it kind of doesn't.
Sure.
You know, at the end of the day, somebody going to be back there. Somebody going to throw the ball. And it's up to us to make a play once it comes. But as far as AR goes, you know, he definitely has a different play style than pretty much every other quarterback I've ever played with and really witnessed, to be honest. So, you know, just what he brings to the game as far as running, throwing, just everything. Like, he's definitely not going to be brought down by the first man. I've learned that over the time. He could definitely extend plays with his legs and his arms. So, you know, it's going to be fun to have him back out there. I'm happy for him.
Does that just mean for you the play's never over with Anthony Richardson?
Pretty much.
You've got to be on top of that?
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Now, for you personally, I know a big part of your life, you've got a 3-year-old daughter, all right? She's a huge part of you know, you coming out here every single day and giving it your all. What does she mean to you, and you know, how much do you play this game for her and sort of of her honor, so to speak?
Man, she mean the world to me. You know, it's just all the time I spend with her, I just look at her and be like, man, like
this is why you do it?
that and also like that's me. Like, you know, just looking at her, just the way she moves around, just how she is. I'm like, man, that's a mini me right there. So, you know, I can't even really put everything into words, but like that's my girl right there. Like, that's my first love. I'm her first love forever.
Oh, yeah. That's how it goes,
she ain't gonna
man.
never forget that.
Yeah.
But man, she's helped me grow so much more as a person, and you know that kind of leads to growing as a player. But you know, I feel like everything starts with her when it comes to me.
Does she understand? I mean, I know she's probably a little bit too young, but does she understand what Dad does and how special it is that you're playing for the Indianapolis Colts?
Yeah, she kind of knows. Kind of anytime she sees,
right?
You know, we'll be on the couch watching some Sunday night football or Monday night.
Yeah, and
she'll be like, hey, you're not out there. Be like, no.
That's what I do, though.
That's what I do.
Right.
So, you know, she definitely understands.
Yeah.
And she's always excited. She be more pumped up than me to go out there Sunday. So, yeah.
How does she experience game day? Does she come to
She
the
be
games,
turned
watch
up.
the games? Yeah.
She be turned up. She got like a little window of turning up though. You know, by the end of the game, she knocked out.
Oh, I bet.
So
am I, by the way.
Yeah. Fair point. Yeah, that little window, she be turned up.
I love it.
sure.
Well, AD, man, congratulations on a great rookie season to this point. All the best
Appreciate you.
going forward, and good luck against the Jets.
Appreciate you.
Special thanks again right there to A.D. Mitchell, rookie wide receiver for the Colts. Again, he's coming off his most prolific game with the Colts in a Colts uniform, 6 catches, over 70 yards. I cannot wait for him to taste the end zone for the first time in his NFL career. I'm sure he's going to be dedicating to that to his daughter,
Yeah.
the 3-year-old daughter that he talked about there towards the end of that interview. So we really appreciate him, shedding some light, I should say, on what life is like outside of football. It's great to be a dad.
Yes.
It's great to be, come home and put things into perspective and, watch his daughter, I'm sure, look up at the screen and say, there's dad on TV.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
just not being able to understand the magnitude of how
Right.
special that is. But she will grow into that for sure. All right, Bill Brooks, Casey Vallier back. I'm Matt Taylor. We're closing out here talking about jet fuel. The Jets have been running out of that fuel here as of late. I'm telling you now, they're 3-7. They've lost 6 of their last 7. And Bill, they were just shellacked by the Arizona Cardinals, 31-6 last time out. And this just continues to be, unfortunately for that fan base, another season of misery for them. They're headed for their 14th straight season in which they have missed out on the playoffs. That's the longest active streak in major North American professional sports.
Man.
Let me say that again. This could be 14 straight seasons if they don't turn it around of missing out on the playoffs. The last time the Jets made the playoffs, they came into Lucas Oil Stadium and beat the Indianapolis Colts in the wild card round. That was Peyton Manning's final game in a Colts uniform. That's how
Wow.
long it's been.
Wow.
They made the AFC Championship
Mark
game that year with
Sanchez,
Mark Sanchez.
Rex
Was
Ryan.
that Bart Scott? Was that the year that
Oh,
Bart
yeah.
Scott was?
He can't stop a nosebleed.
He was guaranteeing things too back then, I think. Wasn't it?
Forgot about
Book
that.
it.
Oh, yeah.
Can't wait.
Can't wait.
But where are the Jets right now, Bill? How do you put things into perspective? Because at the beginning of this season, a lot of people said, hey, Rodgers is coming back, that Achilles is healed. They're going to win the AFC East, and they might even dethrone the Chiefs to make it to the Super Bowl. None of that's happened so far.
No, it hasn't happened. And, with getting Aaron Rodgers 2 years ago, they thought they were going to, get to the playoffs then, but unfortunately got hurt. Now this year, they figure he's back, he's healthy. We have some weapons out there from an offensive standpoint. We can move the ball down the field. We get Devontae Adams in, and hopefully they thought that, with Saleh there, the coach, that we can make some hay and get into the playoffs. But it just hasn't happened. I mean, they just haven't looked good from a offensive standpoint, definitely trying to move the ball. They're in the middle of the pack of every stat pretty much as far as from an offensive standpoint. So it's unfortunate for them, but I'm sure they put a lot of hope into Aaron Rodgers, but it just has not come through. And, they want to play better, but it's just not. And then last week's game was just – it was sad to see that they played, and it looked like, I hate to say it, looked like they gave up during that game. So I think they will bounce back. I think.
What's the dynamic there after you go through a game like that? You come back just even more PO'd?
I think they will be PO'd, and I think you'll have some veterans like Aaron Rodgers. They will step up and make some statements to the team and to the guys playing there that they have to step up their game, and especially coming back home. They don't want to play like that at home because New York fans will let them hear it.
Yeah.
They'll let them hear it if they know that they're stinking up the joint. So I think they're going to be ready to play. They were embarrassed last week, and I think they're going to want to change that and play well this week.
All right, Casey, take on this sluggish offense and Aaron Rodgers. They have one of the worst statistical offenses in the NFL, 26th in yards and points, putting up only 17 points per game. They've scored 24 or fewer in every game on the season. They're the only team not to score north of 25 in a game this season. Rodgers himself, he's never been 3-7. So record-wise and involved in a team, this is his worst start to his NFL career. We're talking 20 years in the NFL now. Last week, he had just 151 passing yards on 35 attempts. He's never had that few yards with that many attempts in his career. But they have studs, right? They've got Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams, and Breece Hall is a really good running back and a good pass-catching weapon out of the backfield. Why does this offense stink so far?
That's a great question, because a couple of years ago it was offensive line related. They fixed the offensive line, then they realized that Zach Wilson wasn't the quarterback, so that's why they make the move for Aaron Rodgers. And you have all these weapons. You talk about Breece Hall. You trade for Devontae Adams midseason. Garrett Wilson's probably one of the, probably top 10.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's one of those young guys up and coming. So it's hard to fathom, and I don't want to be the guy that says this, but age is undefeated. Aaron Rodgers is the oldest player in the NFL, and maybe he's just starting to look old. He doesn't have what he had in Green Bay. I mean, he was an MVP just, I think, 3 years ago, something like that. But coming off of an Achilles, I think all of that, the age, coming off an injury, he's not trying to push the football down the field. So there's just a lot that goes into it, and it's strange because everybody just thought, well, Aaron Rodgers is going to be Aaron Rodgers. You don't have to worry about that. You give him his, Devontae Adams, who he has such a connection with, it's going to be seamless. It just hasn't been that. And it is shocking because when you look at this team on paper, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a first-ballot Hall of Famer. Devontae Adams is going to be a Hall of Famer. Garrett Wilson, if he keeps on this track, he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer.
All-pro guy.
You've got, and Breece Hall's an all-pro running back. They've got a pretty good offensive line. I mean, a couple of those guys are Pro Bowlers. So it is shocking because on paper they should be much better than what they are. It just hasn't worked.
Yeah, and the Colts have to make sure they keep it down.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
You've got to keep, absolutely.
This can't be, the rectified game against this Colts defense.
And you have to jump on them early.
Yeah.
You want to jump on them early so they start thinking, oh, man, here we go again. And then you get their fans going against them, and that's what you want. So if the Colts can jump on them early, I think that would be very helpful for the Colts.
I mean, and in some ways, make them one-dimensional because we talk about how dynamic Breece Hall is. You talked about as a pass-catching back, he's great in the pass game.
They can't run the ball at all.
But you don't want him to run the football because he's capable. They just don't have the opportunity because of being behind in years past.
They're averaging only 86 rushing yards per game.
The 30th,
Yeah, exactly. And that's led to them being number one in the NFL in pass attempts.
Yes.
So they're putting a lot of responsibility and workload on a 40-year-old quarterback there in Aaron Rodgers. All right, let's close out with the defense. Last week, the Jets allowed the Cardinals to score on each of their first 5 offensive drives. The Jets had 10 days to get ready for this game, but they still gave up 31 points. Kyler Murray out in the desert, 22 of 24 passing for 266. And a passing touchdown. Also had a franchise record of 17 completed passes in a row. So you talk about it, Bill. They didn't look like they were ready to play, but Robert Saleh gets fired and gets let go. A defensive guy. So that now means Jeff Ulbrich is in. He's the defensive coordinator, now being the head coach, but still calling the plays, still overseeing the defense. He's got a lot on his plate.
Yes.
It hasn't been the same. The Jets, since Robert Saleh got fired, allowing 26 points, 350 yards per game. They've only forced 1 turnover in the last 5 games in this stretch without Saleh as the head coach. But here's the caveat, and this is going to sound really dorky, but here's the caveat. Despite all of that, they still have really good players, household names on that side of the ball, but New York has allowed 12 points per game at home this season. That's the best in the NFL.
Wow.
The Colts are only scoring 19 points per game on the road this season. That's 21st in the NFL. So when, and more specifically where this game is being played, does give you pause for concern that defense can figure it out, and they do thrive at home for whatever reason, playing much better at MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, they do thrive at home, and they're coming back home after being embarrassed the previous week, so they're going to be ready to play. I like I said before, the stats are middle of the road, but they are a good pass defense. They do a good job in pass defense. I think they're like second or third in pass defense as far as yards giving up in the passing game. So it's going to be something that the Colts have to make sure they keep an eye on. But also they have other good players. They have good players. Quincy Williams out there. They have Quinnen Williams out there, and they have Sauce Gardner out there. As far as he's been in the league. His first 2 years in the league, he's played well. I put up some numbers there, so it's not like the Colts are going against a team that they don't have anybody out there. They have good defenders out there, so it's going to be something that the Colts have to be aware of. But I think having Anthony Richardson back there and having JT back there, I think that's going to help them a lot as far as how they can scheme up some things and keep the defense off balance.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, fellas, that's going to wrap it up here. Any final thoughts? Because I think, again, I think this is a really fascinating game for the Colts to see where they're at, how they're going to respond. You know, a lot of news and a lot of moving and shaking these last 2 weeks. I'm just really eager to see what kind of team we get, and do we have a renewed and revived spirit about this team as we go into the last month and a half of the season. Like we said, the schedule kind of opens up. I think guys know that in the back of their mind. Anthony Richardson comes back. The team is backing him both emotionally, spiritually, verbally. I'm just excited to see what kind of performance we get in the Big Apple coming up on Sunday.
It'll be interesting. I think that what you'll probably get a team that's very emotionally high out there, but you know what? A team that's emotionally high at times, you're going to have to learn how to deal with the ebbs and flow of a game. You know, they're going to have the emotional high, and there are going to be players that go against you, but you have to be able to deal with that and understand that. And then if they could bounce back from those things, I think that will help the team out a lot.
Yeah. And just what subtle changes and tweaks we see on offense, too.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot more of what you saw in 2023 of Anthony Richardson, you know, getting him out in space and kind of utilizing his legs a little bit more. And it really bodes well for this opponent, because it's a team, as Bill mentioned, you know, against the pass with guys like Sauce Gardner. I mean, they are really, really good against the pass. But and they've got a great rush as well. I mean, you look at Will McDonald, Hassan Reddick, Quinnen Williams. They've got a really good front. So, you know, utilizing that run and making sure you're staying ahead of the chains and being able to utilize the running game is going to be very, very key.
Absolutely. All right, fist bumps. Can't reach you. Boom, boom. Well done right there. Bill Brooks, Casey Vallier, I'm Matt Taylor. Fist bump to Ava behind the camera there. There you go.
There you go.
Rock it out. Big one on Sunday.
Yes.
Both teams are desperate for a win, and the Colts are trying to make sure that they are that team indeed coming up around 4 o'clock when the game's over in Week 11. Colts and Jets at MetLife Stadium, and we look forward to it on Sunday. You can listen to it on the home of the Colts on our flagship stations in Indianapolis, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan, and 97.1 Hank FM. And we're going to do it again next Thursday, breaking down Colts and Lions a week from today. But until then, have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the weekend. Go Colts on Sunday. And thanks for listening and watching here on the Colts Audio Network and on YouTube. So long.